Well, well, well. It's not every day that my opinion on something does a complete 180, but it's certainly a pleasant surprise when it happens. Almost 2 years ago, I made this video about the Silverblood Promise by James Logan. I thought the book was okay for the most part, with a couple of criticisms that I had, one of which being the marketing. All the marketing around that book was calling it the next Lies of Locke Lamora, and I think it just set expectations way too high, expectations to which no book could live up to, and I was never really sure if that was on the author or his publicist, likely more so on the publicist side, I would imagine, but go check out that video if you want to hear my full thoughts on it. But at the tail end of 2025, the sequel, the Blackfire Blade, came out. I may have missed it, but I didn't see any excessive marketing for this book like the first one, and I just went into it with lowered expectations, knowing that it would probably just be a pretty good time with some flaws like the Silverblood Promise. What I was not expecting was for it to be one of my favorite books of the entire year. I think that this is exactly what a sequel should be, and a perfect example of how to blow your readers out of the water, coming out absolutely fucking swinging on that second go around, and we're gonna talk all about it. First off, I'll say that the end of last year was a little weird. I had 3 books that I automatically assumed would be in my top 5 for the year, and while I ended up not necessarily hating them, they did not make it into my list for our year-end live stream episode. Those books being Empire of the Dawn, Strength of the Few, and Ritual of Ruin. This was a huge surprise for me because just on the basis of these being released, I just assumed that they would be taking up at least 3 spots on my list. After those books that should have been heavy hitters, I was kind of in a slump. But then I picked up the Blackfire Blade and immediately wanted to reread it. The sequel upped the stakes, deepened the characters and their relationships to each other a lot, and added in a very interesting new city with tons of new world building implications, as well as having a fantastic story for this installment with a mystery that just kept me guessing all the way up to the final reveal. It was a huge improvement on the first book in every single way, including especially the dialogue, and I have got to give James Logan major props for pulling this off and completely turning me around on the series. Now, I'm not going to get into too many details on the main plot itself. You can read that on any website or on the back of the book, but basically this book picks up very, very soon after the ending of the first book, and they go on to a new city and hit a whole new set of roadblocks on their way towards their ultimate goal. And that's pretty much all you need to know for this review, so I'm going to get right into it. The dialogue alone is such a massive improvement. Characters are still kind of quippy with each other, but it doesn't go into eye-rolling territory. It's not like Marvel humor, really. The first book wasn't egregiously bad in this regard, but I never felt like it had the snap of Locke Lamora, which based on the marketing is what I was expecting. This doesn't have the same style of humor as The Gentleman Bastards. It just doesn't, and that's okay because it has found its own footing, and I genuinely enjoyed all of the character interactions, and most of the humor was fantastic. I really liked it. We have these 3 characters who have decided to go on a bit of an adventure together, but it becomes very clear that even after their success and teamwork from the previous book, they all really hate each other. And I actually appreciated this a lot because they did all kind of hate each other but needed each other during the events of the previous book. And at the end of the first book, they had this big moment where they decide to stick together instead of going their own ways, and it really almost seemed like the author was doing the thing of like, you know, yay, we're all buddies now and we're all gonna be friends. But less than 5 sentences into the second book, and it's clear that it is not going going well for our three main characters. Ashra is just kind of pissed with Lucan in general, but the vague grievances turn into very specific personality flaws that she is seeing in Lucan, and she refuses to elaborate for a while, but eventually this discussion between the two of them has to happen, and I really loved how James Logan handled this. It felt incredibly real. It felt dealt with in a messy, chaotic way that you would expect from these characters, and you know how real life usually works. They don't end up sitting in a forest grove and discussing their feelings, and they don't slam each other against the wall and unleash their, hidden sexual frustration for each other. I don't want to say exactly how it gets resolved or if it does, but I can say it felt very genuine, and I was very, very impressed with how it all played out. On the other hand, we have Flea, who Ashra is kind of babying, and Lucan is more than annoyed by. He's ready to kick her to the curb, and at the end of the day, Flea needs to grow up, and Lucan needs to learn how to meet her where she's at. Both things can be true, and while I don't want to give away too much, there's something that happens about a quarter of the way into the book that was so satisfying for readers who were probably a little annoyed by the eager yet oblivious young thief. All the character arcs in this book were absolutely fantastic, and I felt very satisfied by the end of the book. So let's talk about world building. They head into this cold, gray city that felt to me like it was inspired by Russia to some extent, and the people here use magic a little differently. We get introduced to golems, which, as you can imagine, are magic constructs that do various tasks for the people that own them. Basically, fantasy robots. We've seen them in other places, but the ball of yarn that we unravel with these things is so fucking cool. I loved learning about this city and all the players in the city. I felt like the author laid out all the characters very cleanly, and I was never left going, wait, who is that again? Or what does this person have to do with it? Because I kind of had that problem in the first book a little bit. But the politics on display all made sense, but were still complex enough for the readers that enjoy that. And it was just so much fun to consume and to try to figure out the classic question, who's the bad guy? It's one of those stories where it's like, I'm not sure. Like, there's some people that are like clearly assholes and clearly like not like great people, but the whole time you are kind of wondering like, who's our big bad, and kind of figuring that out. I almost went into spoilers a little bit, so whatever I was just saying I had to cut out. But anyways, we also get some amazing reveals for the bigger story at play with Lucan's father and what he was up to, and I'll just say where this book eventually left us, man, I am eager for the next book. I really am. This book was insanely fast-paced, and it was just one of those books that you really don't want to put down. I listen to audiobooks, and typically I'll listen during my workday and then hit pause when I get home and do other stuff. But I was constantly finding that I would get home and just sit at the computer or find excuses to do mundane things just so I could keep listening without losing track of what I was hearing. And I did this late into the night. But, there's not really much more to say. I don't want to give too much away or anything. If you're watching this having read the first book and maybe you kind of felt like meh on it in general, pick this one up. Give it another chance. I think it will very much surprise you, just like it surprised me. It's not very often that I give the second book in a series a chance after feeling kind of meh on the first one, and then it drastically changes my opinion of the series and gets me excited for the then third one. But I'm so happy when it does, and I'm so very excited to read the next installment in this series. So if you haven't already, go read The Silverblood Promise. You'll probably have a decently fun time with it. That's how I explained it in my previous video. I'm like, it was like a fairly fun time. And just know that the second book gets even better, and that's the very best review that I can give something. Hopefully the third book is twice as good as this one, and I just keep enjoying it. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment or a like down below. Engaging with the video helps more people find them and gets me into the algorithm more, so leaving a comment is one of the best things you can do. If you'd like to check out our socials, we got Discord and Twitter and Patreon down below. I post reviews, podcast episodes, and even do the occasional gaming live stream, so stick around and subscribe if you're into that. But I will see you in the next video. Thanks for being here. Bye.